Hey everyone, Minith here. This video is going to serve as more of an overview of the deck user interface and my general thoughts on it. By now you will have seen that I've made a couple of videos that have compared a couple of features from the deck user interface and big picture mode head to head, just to see how the different user interfaces handled it. And if you've seen those videos, you know that my opinion of the deck user interface is negative. And I kind of want to explain a little bit why. I'm going to try and keep this video short. Um, Basically, my perspective is I've been using the Steam controller since it launched. I am a power user of it. I've completely adapted to the dual trackpad primary arrangement of the Steam controller. Uh, and I'm very familiar with what Steam Input is capable of as a user creating a configuration that suits my playstyle. Um, so it launched at the tail end of 2015, so almost 7 years later. I've been maining the Steam controller that long. That is kind of where I'm coming from. So my perspective on the user interface is that very much of a power user. And that's kind of why I tend to have a negative slant towards it, because I really don't like it. Um, this seems very catered to more casual gamers, and that isn't meant to be derogatory. Um, I'm using casual here more as a group of people who are more likely to use the default settings for everything. They just want to pick up and play, they just want to get in the game. That's totally valid, and I'm not saying that anyone who does that is wrong. Uh, So don't go attacking those people or anything. If that's your playstyle, hey, great. No problems here. But this interface is very tailored to that experience. Um, if you think about it, most people are going to be using an Xbox controller, a DualSense controller. If they're on the deck, most people are going to be using the sticks as the primary because they're in the ergonomic primary positions. The trackpads aren't. They're kind of taking a back seat compared to the Steam controller. Um, People are going to be using traditional controls more often than not. So, what this seems catered to, this user interface, is if you have a default gamepad template loaded, you can view the layout just to kind of see where things are in case anything has been shifted. But you're more than likely, if you're casual, you're not going to be pressing edit layout. What this user interface for is mostly the quick settings. That's kind of its power from the casual perspective. Um, Default gamepad template, but maybe you're using a DualSense and have heard good things about gyro and you just want to experiment with it a little bit. Boom, it's right here, right on the landing page of the controller settings. You don't have to click edit layout. You don't have to come down here and then kind of deal with this list layout that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So the whole idea of, default gamepad template and then gyro just to experiment with a little bit, I see the logic and it makes total sense. But for me as a power user, I really don't care about this quick settings thing here. I really want to get into the edit layout. I really want to get in deep and really tune the configuration to my needs. Sorry about that. And that's where, in my opinion, the user interface falls apart. You might have seen a couple of videos by now. Everything in this user interface takes multiple additional clicks to do. And when you're dealing with a large config like No Man's Sky, or you're someone like Rambletown who is making a very in-depth configuration for a game like Arma 3, each little thing taking a few extra clicks, that might not matter to most people, but when you're really going in depth to make really solid configurations, I said in the comments on another video, a drop in the bucket is how the bucket gets filled. So 2 clicks here, 3 clicks there, 5 clicks there, 10 clicks there, 2 more clicks in another spot. All that adds up. And when you're working with a big config or a really in-depth config, suddenly those couple of extra clicks here and there can add up to hundreds of extra clicks over the course of actually making a configuration. So why is that? And going kind of beyond the whole casual angle, um, the deck user interface, it was designed for the deck. The deck is a tablet. That's not the same thing as big picture mode. Big picture mode was designed as a 10-foot user interface, which is, you're sitting on your couch and your TV is 10 feet away. That's kind of the idea behind that user interface. That's a different context. And neither of those contexts are what I'm doing right now, where I'm sitting down at my desktop and I have this window open. A desktop user interface is really kind of what's needed from the perspective of a power user. This tablet user interface, it's not doing the job. It's worse than the 10-foot user interface. I really do not want to see old big picture mode go away anytime soon. I know that maintaining two different code bases is kind of silly, so Valve is likely not going to be doing that, but man, it's going to be painful for me to see old big picture mode go and get this user interface in its place. To me, it's just not as good. It actively makes my experience worse as a power user. So I'd really love to see 3 user interfaces, have this be the new big picture mode and you can actually click and treat it as new big picture mode. Like that would be great. Then have this, the edit layout thing. Why not have this be like the actual desktop user interface that everyone wants? Or that all the power users want. And then this would be for the casuals. Like I was saying, they're going to have a default gamepad template. Maybe they put gyro on. Maybe their controller has a grip button or two, do that kind of stuff. This would be the casual zone. This would be the 10-foot zone. This would be power user zone. Why not do that? There's room for everyone here. So I don't know why they're leaning so heavily into this being a tablet interface when it could be so much more, because there's so many different contexts. Or at the very least, keep this the way it is and then have options for other user interfaces. That would be great. So this video has likely gone on way too long already. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't like the deck user interface from the perspective of a controller power user whose main concern is working with controller configurations. Anyway, have a good one.